You've heard of unconditional love, but have you heard of the secret to unconditional happiness and allowing more into your life? More wealth, more success, and more love. More freedom in your life right now. Welcome to the Happy Bar with Israel Savage.
Well, as you were talking, I was thinking about being happy and stuff, and I was just thinking about how not to let your personal life affect your happiness in your professional life, because it's sometimes hard to forget about negative things at home, and I don't know how to make the negative things that are with your personal life not interfere with your happiness in your professional life too.
Well, I think that's a brilliant observation. And I think it gets at the heart at all of this work. And what you're talking about really is the difference between living conditionally and living unconditionally. In other words, learning the secret to unconditional happiness versus conditional happiness. I'd say 99.9% of the people on this planet live conditionally. In other words, they expect that person, place, or thing to make them happy. And they wait for it. And then when they get that person, place, or thing, they might be distracted for a few seconds, but then the unhappiness is still there, right? And this idea of external, of any sort of emotion coming from outside of us and affecting us is a big one. And it's ingrained in us. I can remember, and some of us are more sensitive than others. I can remember as a kid, I was told over and over again, if my mother was angry or cried, you made her angry, or you made her cry. And I'd be punished for that. If my mother was crying, then it must, I would be punished for it. Now, granted, I probably did say some things that were quite rude and do some things that were quite rude. But what I have since, the way that played out in my life was I started to take responsibility for other people's emotion. And so I would tap, if someone was not feeling good, I'd do tap dances and everything else because it was my responsibility. And what a pressure that is, and what an unreasonable pressure that is, and what a falsehood that was that I grew up believing. But I have since learned that no one's happiness, no one's emotions have anything to do with me, that each of us has to take responsibility for our own emotional state, that no one can make you feel anything. And I interrupt my children and everybody else anytime someone says, you made me feel this way. I'll stop them and say, no one can make you feel anything. You had a thought about what this person did, and your thought is why you're feeling what you're feeling. And you take responsibility for your thought. And there's something very freeing about that. My son and I were just having a conversation. Something happened with, a dispute between him and his mother. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I brought it up, and he was like, well, she did this, and she did this, and she did this. And I said to him, when I was in my teens and early 20s, I saw everything as everyone else's fault. Everything was everyone else's fault. But you know what I was doing when I would blame other people for things in my life? I was giving my power away, because if it's someone else's fault, I can't change that other person. And so I can't change my situation. I become helpless wherever I am. Now, if I can start to look at every situation and think to myself, what part did I play in that situation and how it unfolded? Now that's where power is. That's where the power to shape and create and mold anything you want comes from. And so I share that with you because there's a lining up that's happening for you. And you can't separate personal and professional. You can't compartmentalize that way. Everything is you. Everything is your life. When I work with actors on the stage, I love it. And the reason I love it isn't because of the breakthroughs they make on stage, but it's because the breakthroughs they make on stage directly translate into their lives. It cracks open their lives. It cracks open what is possible. That's why I do what I do. And it works in reverse too. And so you can't make that separation. And part of the frustration that you're feeling is because you're trying to do the impossible. It's all the same, right? Now, what you can do is take responsibility, as you've started to do, for your feelings, and know that your feelings are there to help you. So if you're feeling something that's unpleasant, it again is just guidance. It's information. You are thinking thoughts about a situation, whether it's personal or professional, that are different than the way your greater self would see things. It's challenging when your personal things have to do with people you live with or who are still kind of in your orbit. But what you will start to see is as you raise your vibrational level, your default happy bar, as you become happier and happier more and more of the time, what you're going to start to see is one of two things. Either those people in your life will start to raise their happiness level as well, or they will get out of your life. In other words, you will, if you have to rendezvous with them, you'll rendezvous with them when they're at their best self, right? And the only reason right now that you are lining up with them is because you can. But soon as you continue in this work, you're going to be in a place where you won't be so easily pulled in, where they have to rise to meet you or they won't meet you at all, right? Until they're in this better and better feeling place. And that's how the universe works. And so the real power is focusing on your feeling and using that as guidance to shape your thoughts. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. Now, I know when you're in the middle of a situation, whatever the situation, it's tough because it's, okay, Israel, here's the reality. I'm having to deal with this. And it's nice to know that you can feel this, but it's when it's in your face, it's tough to break free. And let me tell you, after being on the other side of several dysfunctional relationships, and I'm not saying that the relationships you're describing are dysfunctional, but unpleasant relationships that you can feel your way through to a better and better feeling place. And it's just one rung of the ladder at a time. It starts with making it a priority to feel good for you. It might mean you might have to leave a conversation. It might mean you don't call someone back right away until you're in a better and better feeling place. But you got to make how you feel your top priority and tune into that. And it changes everything. Absolutely everything. It's like magic.
If you liked what you just heard, then take inspired action now. That's right, act while you are feeling good. And build on your momentum. Schedule your free discovery call with me at instudios-nyc.com/happybar.